Hello and welcome back to Hold My Drink. Today we are going to be getting all in our feels, talking about feelings and how when you get sober, you actually feel your feelings and you don't just numb them with alcohol. Alcohol is a coping mechanism for a lot of people, and when you take that coping mechanism away, you have to actually feel your feelings, whether they're good or bad, and then B, you have to develop new coping mechanisms that don't involve alcohol, that aren't just an easy fix. We're in it for the long haul and all natural, no booze. So, with that said, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Hold My Drink, a sobriety podcast. This is a no judgment zone. I really freaking like my life without alcohol. You're not alone. I hope you feel seen. Sobriety has changed my life completely. This was something that none of my research provided me information on in my early sobriety. People talked about all sorts of things that would happen when you got sober, but one thing that I didn't really come across was talking about how your feelings would be something you actually have to face. And those can be feelings of sadness, boredom, frustration. And when we feel those, we actually have to deal with the consequences of feeling those things. You know what I mean? If something bad happens at work and it makes us really frustrated, instead of just instantly having a drink and feeling better, we have to think about why we're frustrated, and we have to just deal with that feeling of this thing is really bothering me. It's angering me. And we feel those. And it is a weird experience when you first get sober. You're like, oh my God, you mean I actually have to address these things that are going on in my life? It's like I had been numbing myself for so long when I was drinking heavily that I had just completely lost the skill set to deal with my emotions and my feelings. So I literally felt like a toddler having to learn how to harness our anger, deal with sadness. I mean, it was like starting from square one. So I want to give you some tips in today's episode and also just talk about what to expect if you're thinking about getting sober soon. Or maybe you're in early sobriety and you are all in the feels and you're struggling to deal with those feels. I got you. Let's talk about some actual strategies for dealing with that. So let's take it back to the drinking so we can learn what we used to do and how we used to deal with emotions. I'm going to talk about my personal situation. I was dealing with something really awful in a previous relationship that I was in during COVID. And, I was kind of trapped with this person, trauma bonded, if you will, stayed in the relationship way longer than I should have. The person was really great to me at times and really, really awful to me at other times. And when those awful times would arise, I would drink about it. I developed my heavy drinking habits during that relationship, and then they stayed with me for a longer period of time for various reasons, which we can talk about later. But the drinking habits developed during that relationship. It started because I didn't like the way he treated me. He's making me really angry. He's making me sad. He's making me feel bad about myself. He's isolating me from my friends and family. And alcohol was a crutch for dealing with all of those things. He made me feel alone. Alcohol makes you feel a lot less lonely. Sitting at home alone by yourself is a lot more fun when you're drinking alcohol and just getting drunk by yourself. Woohoo! Also, when he's mean to me, talking down to me, making me feel bad about myself. And I'm spinning. My thoughts are spinning, thinking about, God, he's right. Like, he would say all sorts of things to hurt me. And I would drink when he made me feel anything but happy. And then when he was happy, we drank together. So anyways, there was a lot of alcohol going on in that relationship. And then when that relationship ended, he didn't leave me alone, and I had to take action, actually. It was a really, really difficult time. I've never really talked about this before, but we're talking like hundreds of messages a day. Even if I blocked the number, he'd get new phone numbers. I eventually had to change my phone number. He still found a way to contact me once I had changed my phone number. It was really horrible. That is a conversation for another time, but I was dealing with all of that with alcohol. It was the number one hardest time of my entire life. Even worse than the relationship itself, which totally made me feel horrible. I cried all the time. I've never behaved the way I did during that relationship. It made me into a different human being. The aftermath of that relationship was even worse than the relationship itself. And I was scared for my life. Like, I woke up every morning scared and nervous, and the first thought in my brain was like, God, I don't want to look at my phone. What's going to be on my phone today? Or every time my doorbell rang, I'm instantly filled with fear. Everything was triggering and horrible, and it was just a really, really hard time in my life. And we all go through hard things. I'm definitely keeping it pretty surface level, but things got ugly, and it was really, really bad. And we all go through difficult things, whether that's like grief, maybe you're laid off from work, maybe you're losing a relationship with a family member, friendship breakups. There are all sorts of things that we go through in life. Injuries. I mean, the list goes on and on of different traumas that we can experience. And for me, alcohol was the only thing that could get me through the day. It was like my day, every day I woke up, it was bad. It was a bad day. I was being stalked and harassed and written these horrible emails. Things were being left on my car. I was scared. There were horrible things happening every single day during that time, before I was able to make it all stop with the help of the police. But I drank to get through those times. And yeah, I drank in the morning. I drank throughout the day. At that time when I was going through that, I didn't have any proper employment. I was totally self-employed as a social media influencer. And just doing my own thing, making my own money. I had to record a few TikToks a day, and that was my job at the time. So I could drink all day long, and I did. I had alcohol for breakfast because, it's making me emotional even just thinking about this, but every day I woke up just knowing that it was going to be another really hard day, and I was going to have to deal with some really awful things. And alcohol just made it so much easier. It quieted all of my thoughts. It made whatever was happening in my life less bad. And that's why sometimes I want to, as my goodbye to alcohol, I want to write a love letter to alcohol, because alcohol got me through so much during that time. It was the only thing that made me feel normal. And it numbed any thoughts that I was having, any sadness, any anger. It just made me feel normal. And I'm almost grateful for alcohol for getting me through that time, because I don't think at the time I was strong enough to get through it on my own. And alcohol helped me. Obviously, I don't recommend that you or anybody use alcohol to deal with your problems. We do have the tools in our toolbox to deal with whatever comes to us in life without substances. And I know that now because I am, 8 months sober today, actually. And I know that we do have the tools to deal with whatever life throws us. Back then, I didn't have those tools. I drank to deal with my emotions, and so I don't think I had the tools to deal with what was going on in my life without the help of alcohol. And like I said, 8 months sober now, and I have finally had to deal with all of my feelings. I've had to address sadness, frustration, excitement, anything in life, any emotion that arises, I've had to address it. And it's been really interesting getting to know myself again. I think the hardest feeling to manage without alcohol as a newly sober person was anxiety or nervousness. I used to drink before job interviews, and that's really tough to admit, but I'm trying to be very vulnerable on this podcast. And I drank whenever I was nervous. Always. If I was having to do something with a new person, go get coffee with a person I hadn't met before, and I was really nervous for that, I would drink before. I would fill my coffee cup with Coors Light and take a job interview. Yeah. So when I got sober, anxiety and nervousness was the hardest thing to overcome without alcohol. And yeah, it was like relearning who I am. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so let's say I have a job interview coming up and I'm really nervous. I am anxious. I am shaking. I'm so nervous for the call. First of all, I recognize, why do I feel that way? Well, it's because I don't know what it's going to be like. So there is the unknown. I don't know what they're going to ask. I don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know if they're going to be nice or hard on me. It's unexpected, so that makes me nervous. And the way to combat that without alcohol is to prepare like crazy so that whatever happens during that call, you are ready to face it. I like to have a few key stories ready for my job interviews that I can pull from. So no matter what weird random questions they ask, and they're like, give me an example of this particular time when you blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh my God, I don't have anything for that answer. If you have 3 strong stories, you can link them to pretty much any question they ask. That helps me feel less anxious. I also write down all my questions for them ahead of time, maybe 3 key points that I don't want to leave the interview without mentioning. And being over-prepared makes me feel less nervous. I also think we have to remember that it's okay to feel frustrated, angry, anxious, whatever it is. We're talking about anxiety right now. So it's okay to feel nervous before a job interview. In fact, I think you're supposed to. I think it would be very weird if you were totally comfortable, not nervous at all for a job interview. I think that means you don't take it that seriously. You don't want it that bad. Nervousness means that something is important to you. You wouldn't be nervous about something if it didn't matter. So another thing that's important to remember is that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. Like, your feelings are valid. You don't have to drink away the anxiety. You're allowed to feel anxious sometimes. That's okay. And we just got to learn how to deal with that. So I talked about the job interviews as an example. Now let's talk about something that frustrates us. Okay, so-and-so said something to you at work right as you were leaving the building, and it just totally threw off your entire vibe. You were in a great mood all day, and then this person says a little snarky comment to you right as you're walking out the door. The whole drive home, you are just thinking about it. You can't even listen to your music or your podcast on the drive home because your wheels are just spinning about this comment that somebody made to you. And you know what? The first thing I would have done when I walked into the door was pour myself a drink, because I'd be thinking, this person angered me. They ruined my day. Like, I'm not going to let them ruin my entire evening. As soon as I had that first sip, I stopped thinking so much about what that person said to me. It was instantly gone and something I didn't have to worry about. And I used to love doing that. When somebody peeved me off, having a drink about it was so much easier than actually addressing what about that comment made me frustrated, how I'm going to deal with that person the next time I see them, how I can not let that comment ruin my day. If you just have a drink, boom, it's gone. That kind of goes back to that impulsivity thing that I talked about in episode 2. I'll link it here if you're watching on YouTube. But impulsivity is like, okay, I want a drink, I have a drink. Boom, bam. And so that frustration at work that happened, that person made me feel frustrated. I want a drink, I'm having a drink. That's how the lack of impulse control works. But once you quit drinking and you have to improve your impulse control and find other strategies because you don't consume alcohol, you say, this person's comment really frustrated me. I really want a drink. But why do I want a drink? It's because I don't want them to ruin my day. It's because they said something and it wasn't true. It's because they accused me of something and it really hurt my feelings. Okay, first of all valid. love that. You're allowed to feel frustrated. You're allowed to feel all those different things that comment made you feel. So you don't have to be like, God, I don't want to be frustrated anymore. You can be frustrated. I always say, like, even with hunger too, hunger is not an emergency, and you can feel hunger sometimes. It's okay to feel hungry. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel sad. Whatever feelings you have, you're allowed to feel them. And I'm giving you the okay right now. You are allowed to feel whatever way you feel. Okay? So the comment made you frustrated. You walk into your house. You're like, dang, this is triggering me. It's making me want to drink. I'm no pro, okay? I'm 8 months sober and I have learned some good strategies, but I am no pro. And when something frustrates me, I think what I like to do is redirect that frustration. So what this person said really bothered me. And you need to know the root issue. Why does it bother you? Is it because it wasn't true? They were accusing you of something you didn't do? They said it in a weird way. Like, there's all sorts of different ways that something can make you frustrated. So seriously, I'm not into all that woo-woo stuff, but if you actually sit there and think, why did that make me frustrated? It really does help. And it helps you understand why it was bothersome to you. Sometimes impulsivity takes over and you say something snarky right back to them. It's kind of the same fix as alcohol, right? Like, alcohol numbs it and makes it like, okay, that didn't even happen. And a snarky comment makes you instantly feel gratified, like, oh, I showed them. Both are coping mechanisms, but not great coping mechanisms, okay? I'm a firm believer of kill them with kindness. And so I try, instead of instantly saying the first thing that comes to my mind, think about it for a minute. Why does that make me frustrated? And then we deal with it. What I'm trying to say is recognize the feeling, recognize why it makes you feel that way, and then deal with it in a way that's not alcohol or some rude, snarky comment. And like I said, redirection is really important, especially for frustration. Maybe you just had a frustrating day at work. Maybe consider taking that frustration out elsewhere, like at the gym. The gym, working out, releases dopamine, and alcohol releases dopamine. We crave dopamine, and the body does produce it itself. We lose that ability a little bit when we are heavy drinking because we rely on the dopamine that alcohol provides. The gym, or working out, moving your body, provides a similar dopamine hit to alcohol. I know that sounds crazy, but the endorphins that you get from moving your body, working out, lifting weights, it's kind of like a little high that you get. And it can be a great way to instantly improve your mood. I've noticed on days where I'm feeling a little bit moody, I realize it's the days that I didn't start off in the gym. For me, starting my day in the gym is key. I'm sure for a lot of people, ending the day in the gym is really important too, because you just had your frustrating day at work and you get to go in the gym and lift heavy things and grunt and use your muscles and move your body, and it probably feels really, really good. And what a better way to redirect your frustration or anger. Instead of having a drink, we go to the gym. I highly recommend the gym over alcohol. Okay? I want to address one more emotion that I think a lot of people drink about, and that is sadness, death, grief, a breakup, someone treating you poorly. A sadness is a whole nother level of feeling that we have to deal with. And sadness was probably the hardest one to address for me in sobriety, like actually just feeling sad and recognizing that and not just drinking to make it go away. That was really hard, if I'm being honest. I will say though, as soon as you get sober and stop drinking, the sadness definitely comes a lot less frequently. Of course, we can't control things that happen in our lives. There are going to be sad things that happen, things that cause you sadness. But the lows are a lot less low when you don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, as we know. So yeah, depressant. It's in the name. Your lows are way lower with alcohol. And when I was sad, I used to drink alcohol and thinking that it would fix that, but it like makes you more sad. And even if it makes you feel better for the time being, when you wake up the next day, that low is going to be way lower. And when you remove alcohol completely, the sad situations, the sadness that we feel in life, it hurts. I mean, it's still really, really sad. But you develop strategies to deal with the sadness. You feel those feelings. You're allowed to feel those feelings. But the lows are so much less low. And you can bounce back a lot faster. Every day is a new day. You wake up refreshed and ready to go and not hungover and sad. Removing alcohol makes dealing with sadness actually easier, even if you used to drink to deal with sadness. So when something sad happens, we need to address why it made us sad. Most of them will be obvious reasons, a breakup, a death, whatever. Those are sad things, and you're allowed to feel those sad things. And I actually think it does a disservice to what's actually going on if you just drink it away. To actually feel, let's say it's a death, feel and remember that person and remember their impact and recognize that their loss hurts you deeply. That's so much more real than just drinking and feeling better and not even addressing it. Just drink it away, Don't even think about it. That does such a disservice to that person's life. And a breakup, for example, I have been through 3 breakups in my life. I've had 3 boyfriends. And I broke up with all 3 of those guys for different reasons. I felt a lot of sadness in my most recent relationship because that was a really good relationship. I had a wonderful relationship with that person. And so I think the breakup was more sad for me. And like I said, I've had 3 relationships. I can tell you from experience, when you don't drink throughout the entire breakup, you get over it a lot faster. I think it's like you feel your feelings more intensely right away, and then you can actually move on and grow and bounce back. In the other relationships where I've drank through the breakup, you feel those feelings of sadness a lot longer because you didn't address the issues right away. So remove alcohol, feel those feelings, and it'll make you a better person moving forward. Feeling feelings is not a bad thing. And it's such a shift from before when you're a heavy drinker, bad things happen, you feel sad, angry, frustrated, you drink about it. Like, you shouldn't feel that way. Shut up the thoughts in your head and have a drink. That'll fix it. No, it's like a Band-Aid. It temporarily fixes it. And the real solution is to address our feelings, address our thoughts, sit with those, get to know ourselves again, and then move on and grow. And it really is like you're meeting a new person when you get sober. Because I kind of thought, I'm not that emotional. I'm not that sensitive. And I can be. And I used to always think if I was emotional or sad or crying or whatever, I was like, it's because I'm drinking or hungover. Or that bad ex that I talked about, he used to tell me all the time that I was just feeling a certain way because I had had a couple drinks. Now I know that alcohol is not a part of my life, that my feelings are actual feelings. They're actually valid, and nobody can tell me that I shouldn't feel the way that I feel. Wow. That's kind of a powerful statement.